Return, O virgin daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's house of Joseph. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America. Shalom, this is Stefania Pappas with B'nai Yosef North America, and with me is Al McCarn, our Executive Director, and we are going to Israel for our next person that we're going to interview that both of us know and met at actually the same time.
Yes, we did meet him at the same time. I think that was the occasion of the second B'nai Yosef National Congress, which was in the fall of 2016, right about the time of Sukkot. And our guest is Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz of Israel 365. Eliyahu lives in Katzrin in the Golan Heights, just a few miles from the Syrian border. We had the pleasure of meeting him, meeting his family. A number of us traveled to his home, and he welcomed us into his sukkah during the Sukkot Tabernacles celebration. And oh, what a blessed time of just sitting and fellowshipping with our Jewish brother and his wife and their children. Well, in this case, we are going to be talking about his latest book, and it is called The Master of Return and the 11th Light. This is Eliyahu's second novel. It has been published by Root Source. So if you would like to get a copy for yourself, you can go to root-source.com. It's also available on Amazon. But The Master of Return and the 11th Light, it's an autobiographical novel. What is personal to me about this book, and Stefania, I know personal to you and others, is that we know many of the people who appear as characters in the book. That would be, of course, Eliyahu and his wife, Rabbi Tuli Weiss of Israel 365, Rivka Lambert-Adler, and several others that we know in Israel, both Jewish and Christian. When you read this book, it's going to be, well, I call it world-class literature because it is that good. His writing is that good and that gifted. It's a depiction of what life is like for Jewish settlers in what the rest of the world calls the West Bank, but what we know as the biblical heartland. And what you'll hear in this interview, and it's a 4-part interview, but what you'll hear is my appreciation for how Eliyahu has put faces and names and humanity to these Jewish pioneers who have been vilified in the international press, even in the Israeli press, through the BDS movement, through anyone and everyone who opposes the state of Israel, the Jewish people, and especially those who are walking out the biblical promises in the biblical heartland. And Stefania, have you had the pleasure of reading the book yet?
No, I have not. I did see an interview where he was interviewed actually in another interview about the book, and very much intrigued by the book, and I'm sure that we're going to look at getting one.
Yes, I would highly recommend that. Now, I'd also recommend Eliyahu's first novel, The Hope Merchant. You can get that at root-source.com as well. Stefania, that other interview you mentioned, that was with the Israel guys, with Yovel. Here's something our audience may not know about Eliyahu Berkowitz's book. Because he portrays the Jewish settlers in a positive light, and because he's being as objective as he can about the opposition they face and the Arab terrorism that they face, he had a lot of trouble getting a publisher. So as you read the book, you'll understand why. And as you hear of our conversation, some of that will come into the remarks that he makes. And basically, it's this. Anything that is counter that narrative that the Palestinian Arabs are the victims and Israel and the Jewish people, and especially the settlers, are the oppressors, anything that's counter to that narrative is not wanted. And that's why Eliyahu had a hard time finding a publisher. So that's our introduction. Let's go on to Katzrin, Israel, and meet Eliyahu Berkowitz. Well, welcome to another interview segment of Reunion Roadmap. This is Al McCarn, and with me all the way from Katzrin, Israel, in the Golan, Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz of Israel 365. Eliyahu, welcome to the show.
Thank God. Thank you. Okay.
Now, we have the honor today of talking about your third book, your second novel, Master of the Return and the 11th Light. What a great book. I am
you read it?
Yes, I did. I read it. I also read your first novel, The Hope Merchant.
Oh, my gosh.
I didn't read your second book yet.
Okay. Okay.
But I can tell you that The Hope Merchant, it's a different kind of fiction, a different kind of novel. And, I remember when you first published it, you described one chapter as the only Jewish chapter in the book. And you did. That may have been a conversation.
Right. I remember now. Yeah. Sure. I mean, I wrote it like 20 years ago. So
yes. Yeah, and I was reading it.
You're right. You're right. It was the 36 the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, the 36 holy men that keep the world going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That gave me such a great insight into the Jewish world, the Jewish view of creation, of the God of creation, of how we relate to him. So before we get to talk about The Master of Return, I want to give a plug for The Hope Merchant, which is another one. It's a soul-stirring novel.
Thank God.
At a deep level.
Thank God. It came from a very special place. And it's kind of funny. People ask me what kind of writing it is. It's not explicitly, overtly, blatantly religious, but there's no question that it comes from a God perspective, a perspective that we're not just flesh and blood, that we're not just, I was getting bored with regular novels. There's genres, and it's all about something material or some, maybe you're talking about politics, but how often do you get to read about people who are fighting for their soul, who are fighting for a deeper meaning to their everyday existence? There aren't too many that maybe they'll different pretenses to that, but to say, look, my life isn't working, I need soul. There aren't really too many, I think. So that's what it's about.
I would say Master of Return carries that forward.
Yeah. Master of Return, though, it has an overt agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I'll tell you a story. There's a lovely woman, her name is Kay Wilson. Kay Wilson lives in Israel. She's originally British. She survived a horrific terror attack. She was stabbed a bunch of times. Her friend who was with her, she saw her die in front of her eyes. And she wrote an amazing book called A Rage Less Traveled. It's really, I highly recommend it. I got it. She said, please read it. Let me know what you think. And that's kind of loaded because, you have a dear friend. They wrote a book. And if you read it, what if it's horrible? What are you going to tell them? But I was so pleased that I could tell her it was wonderful. It was a wonderfully written book. And it touched on a little bit on the terrorist attack, but most of it was about healing from the attack and the after effects and how deeply it changed her. And it was wonderfully written. She got an amazing, one of the most, if not the most prominent literary agent in Israel. And they said, this is amazing. We're going to get you 6 figures advance. Well, it'll be a year later, no publisher would touch it. And they unabashedly said to her, look, we're not going to publish a book about Jews suffering from Palestinian terrorist attacks, but anything you have about Palestinians suffering under the occupation we'll publish. And I realized that not only in the news, which is, so frequently it's a lie. It's not even a good lie. It's a lie that doesn't make sense. but the arts are so slanted and so prejudiced, and that people, it's a shame. And I said, I got to do something about that. So I figured I'd write a novel, something that's enjoyable to read, something that's pretty much true to life. There's actually only one section, one short segment of the book that I made up out of whole cloth. Everything else is at least based in truth, if not pretty much telling it straight up. Because people have to know. They really need to know. And it's not about politics. It's all about the Jews are back in Israel. Not a single Jew lives in Israel for politics. Not a single Jew lives in Israel because we want to steal land or something like that. Every single Jew in Israel is here on some level because we want to get close to God. We want to live the covenant. We want to live where God told us to live. And that's why we're here. Even the non-religious Jews. And that's why they're killing us. And that's why so many political agendas are anti-Israel, not because we're anything special, but they can't have it. They can't have the blatant manifestation of the covenant in their face. Mm-hmm. It just requires too much of them. So they hate us, and they have this agenda, and it's not politics. So I needed to get that message out there. And it wasn't getting out there. So that's why I wrote it.
That's one level of the value of your novel. Because I know from your story, you live now in Katzrin in the Golan Heights, just a few miles from the Syrian border. Before that, you lived in Judea and Samaria.
I lived in Bad Ayin in Gush Etzion, yeah.
Yeah. So you and your family are among those Jewish settlers in the West Bank.
Yeah, I had to show, when I went into my work the other day, I had to show them my Teudat Zahut, because that was taken, the picture in my ID. Teudat Zahut is an ID card. Picture in my ID card was taken when I lived there, and it had the big, long, fluffy payas and the beard down it. Of course, the beard was not white. But I was one of those guys running around in the hilltops with jeans and the big floppy, tzitzit with the blue thread, and that was. I mean, I still have a big kippah, relatively speaking, but I lived that way for 15 years, and it had a deep. And it's just really amazing people. I wrote this book, but I'm so simple compared to some of the people I really merited to meet. There's amazing people there. So.
Yeah. And we see some of these, we meet some of them in the novel.
Yeah. And they're real people. Sometimes I didn't even change the names. So I hope I don't get into too much trouble. But you could be walking like into Bad Ayin and say, Yaki? Are you Yaki? And yeah. Oh, Yaki, I read about you. And he'll go nuts. But Yaki's an amazing man. I couldn't change his name.
Well, I liked him. He's one of those remarkable characters.
Yeah, he is.
But here's another part of the value of your book is you are putting names and faces and real human stories to these people we just read about on the headlines labeled Jewish settlers.
Right. That's usually. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yes.
So I guess I did at least some of my job, because that's very true. And it's funny. I every time guys from Bad Ayin would bring their families, they'd look weird. They'd be like, oh, who are these people? And okay, we look weird, but I used to be a biker. I used to have long hair. I have a tattoo. The earrings. You go through stages. Or at least I did. And one stage, I looked like a settler. But if you cut off the payas and you cut off the beard, or if you look past them, we're really not that different, except maybe we're working a little bit harder to connect to God. I mean, when I look back on some of the things I did, I don't know how I did it. I write about jumping into the ice cold springs at 5 a.m. I hate cold water, man. I really hate cold water. And I'll tell you something. I'm struggling now through trying to read through the New Testament. And when I read about baptism, I'm like, yeah, I've done that, And yeah, you'll see the heavens split up above you. It's like it's a real experience, It's ice cold spring at 5 a.m. Woo! It'll change your world. It'll definitely rock your world. So that's what we were doing, trying to serve God.
Well, yes. So there's that part, and sure enough, we see differences of the physical differences of your appearance.
Yeah.
And I could say that about Christians I know, Amish and Mennonites and others in the Hebrew roots movement. The obstacle a lot of people have is pushing through the difference of appearance and getting to know the person.
Yeah.
So you've done that in Master of the Return.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, when I'm reading about you and your friend Kalman in jumping into the icy spring, and I'm also reading about the inner turmoil and decision issues that you're facing and everybody's personal lives, and also dealing with government and taxes and all of that. An astute reader, or one who has just a little bit of paying attention, will realize these are real people dealing with the same issues that I have to deal with, even though they're doing it in a setting that's foreign to me, and they look different from me. So you're humanizing these Jewish pioneers. That's a beautiful thing in this novel.
One of the last things I changed about the book before I decided, okay, I can play with it forever, but I got to publish it at some time. The last thing I changed was someone said to me, look, you introduce your wife. She's obviously a major player, a major character. Go into that relationship. And that's kind of, it's a little uncomfortable. There were some elements of truth, but I'm not going to reveal my personal relationship with my wife. But that's something I think that a lot of people struggle with. You'd think religious people, it's all, it's funny. The title of the book, Master of Return, is a translation of the term Baal Tshuva. Baal Tshuva is the Hebrew expression to describe someone who becomes religious and who was not. And it literally means the master of the answer. Tshuva means answer, and it also means return. And secular, they have this thing where they're like, oh, you think you have all the answers. And I'm like, oh no. As soon as that's when the big questions really kick in. When you decide to connect to God, the big questions. That's the big questions. And you're looking for bigger answers. It's like, a non-religious father, his 16-year-old son is acting up. Buy him a car. That's not my answer anymore. I have to go really deeper because I'm not concerned about him being happy. I'm concerned about his soul, about his neshama, so I have to dig deeper. So yeah, so you have to look on the inside. And I think, when we sit down and talk, you and I, we have a lot of the same concerns. What we call shalom bayit, or peace in the house, raising our kids. And it's all circulating around our relationship with God.
Yes.
So I think you do get to know the people because there are real people, and these are their concerns.
Yeah, real concerns about this journey toward God, about their relationship with Him, and this is a point of connection between Jews and Christians, because Christians who are on this same journey, a parallel journey perhaps, are seeing in your Jewish story that there are many common elements. My prayer is that we could just have more of this, recognizing and building on these common elements we have in our relationship with the Almighty, rather than focusing on the differences.
How much of that do you think is of that commonality? Do you think is a product of where we are in history? Because we're in a very unique space.
Yes,
and more commonalities. I mean, on even not the deep commonalities, but just things like you know, I mean, silly politics, or not so silly politics. We're pretty close, and it's like everything is becoming polarized. Yes. So I'm finding more and more people standing on this little island with me who are Christian.
What a great way to put it, this little island.
Yeah, the world's going crazy around us, and we look at each other and we're like, I'm here with you, dude. What am I going to do, you know?
Yeah, and to answer your question, I'd say a huge part of it has to do with where we are in history.
Yeah. History is a thing. It does happen.
Mm-hmm. You know, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, there were some Christians who were paying attention to the beginnings of the Zionist movement. Zionist in the sense that I'm meaning of Jews are understanding who they are and whose they are, and the promises of God to return Israel to the land, the promised land, and restore his land, his nation, his people, and his city and his temple. Jews are taking this seriously. And some Christians are seeing that and taking it seriously as well. So it's a process that's been going on for, I guess, close to 2 centuries now. But we have crossed another threshold, I think.
Absolutely.
Barry Phillips and the Aleph Tav Band now sing "We Need Your Healing."
Breath of heaven, breathe on us again. Let your wind blow, bring life to this land. Waters from above come pouring down. Wash this dusty clay, flood the thirsty ground. We need your healing, we want to live again. Only you can give us life, sing out your calling to those forgotten. Let your chosen ones arise. Blind eyes open, lame jump and dance. The weak are made strong, take a holy stand. Voices crying out, let your will be done. Sing, shoot now, let kingdom come. We need your healing, we want to live again. Only you can give us life, send out your calling to those forgotten. Let your chosen ones arise. We need your healing, we want to live again. Only you can give us life, send out your calling to those forgotten. Let your chosen ones arise. Breath of heaven, breathe on us again. Let your wind blow, breathe life to this land. Waters from above come pouring down. Watch the dusty clay, flood the thirsty ground. We need your healing, we want to live again. Only you can give us life, send out your calling to those forgotten. Let your chosen ones arise. We need your healing, we want to live again. Only you can give us life, send out your calling to those forgotten. Let your chosen ones arise. Blind eyes open, the lame jump and dance. The weak are made strong, take a holy stand. Voices crying out, let your will be done. Sing, shoot now, let your kingdom come. Let your kingdom come. Let your kingdom come.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the mid-rush portion of Reunion Roadmap. This is David Jones, and with me today is Barry Phillips. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, David.
Hey, Barry, you ever been a shepherd? Like literally, like with actual literal sheep?
No.
Me neither. But yeah, so much of the scripture talks about being a shepherd. And one of the things I come across in the scripture today is that it puts a personal responsibility on anyone in the community who, if they see someone who is a shepherd who needs help, to help them. And it sparked in my mind a whole lot of different interesting scenarios and different takes, and physically and spiritually, just a whole bunch of different things in there. And I'm thinking of Deuteronomy 22, 1 through 4. And I'm gonna read that really quick. It says, "You are not to watch your brother's ox or sheep going astray and ignore them. You must certainly bring them back to your brother. If your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you should bring it to your own house, and it will remain with you until your brother comes searching for it and you return it to him. You are to do the same with his donkey or his coat or anything lost by your brother, that may be lost by him, and you find you may not ignore them. You must not watch your brother's donkey or ox fall down on the road and ignore it. You must help him lift it up again." Okay. So this is 4 verses, but there's quite a few different points and turns that you can make in here. One, so it says if you see a sheep going astray, and it's interesting as it says it's your brother's sheep, but you don't know your brother. Okay, how would I not know my brother? Or it says, or if we do know that it's our brothers. So again, there's a couple different takes on that. And I'm thinking, we are all lost sheep, like King David said, I have been a lost sheep. I've been gone my own way, right? And it also makes me think of, Yeshua, where he says, "I've come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel," in Matthew 15:24, I think. And so when we think about this, we've all been lost sheep, but Yahweh has always been faithful to put someone in our path, or to have us come across somebody else's path, to bring us to a place of restoring us to which we belong. Restoring us back, bringing us into relationship with our and our brothers. Restoring us to the house, restoring us back to his house. So there's again more that can be said there. Another thing is, even if it's your brother's possessions, if you see something it's your brother's, hold on to it. And all of these things, it's a matter of, don't just walk by when you see something that you have the means to be able to restore it. Don't just walk by. And sometimes it takes a personal responsibility, bring it to your own home so that it can be restored to your brother. And then on the other part, again, there's more here, but just the part I'm mentioning here. In verse 4, it says, "You're not to watch your brother's donkey or ox fall down on the road and ignore it. You must certainly help him lift it up again." And my thinking on that is, it's interesting that it says that you must help him lift it up. That implies that he is trying to lift it up. That we're not going to do it for him, but we are willing to help him. If he can't do it, we're willing to jump in and help. But we're not necessarily going to, hey, stand back and let us do this. We're not going to do it for him. So we're talking about restoration, and then we're talking about personal responsibility and bearing each other's burdens. Where do you want to go with this today, Barry?
Well, I heard a word of wisdom several weeks ago from someone who has dealt with addiction counseling, and they put it very succinctly, and that is that you match the effort of the one that you're working with. If you do more for someone than they're willing to do for themselves, you become an enabler. But if they're willing to put the work in and make the effort, then you match their effort. we work as hard as they do, but we don't do it for them. Otherwise, people will be in consistent need of rescue and deliverance and expecting of others to come and do it for them. I remember many, many years ago, David, I was an evangelist in those days, and I was preaching a revival for a particular man. And he related a story to me of how at the end of a church service, two men walked in at the end of everything and looked for him as the pastor and told him that they were traveling. They had other members of their family in the vehicle outside. They were hungry and they needed food. Some kind of misfortune had befallen them and they were not able to pay for food. And he said, "Oh, I'll be glad to feed you." He said, "If you'll follow me back here in the back in our kitchen, we have, all the things that you need to make all the sandwiches you would want, and just, bring your family in. Come on, let's eat." "Oh, no," they said. "Just call down to the local restaurant," and they called the name of it, "and tell them that you'll pick up the bill and we'll go there and eat." And he says, "No, I'm not going to do that. There's food here. If you want it, you're welcome to it." They turned around, walked out of the building. A few moments later, however, they came back and said, "You said you had some food for sandwiches?" "Yeah, sure. Come on back." So there are people that they want.
Wow.
They want you to do their preference. Our rescue of someone, our assistance, our help, our deliverance for someone may not be their choice. But when you walk in wisdom, when you walk circumspectly, when you walk in mercy and deliverance, it doesn't always mean a handout. Handing out doesn't necessarily give a hand up. So,
like you're saying there, it's reminding me of a time here that Faith was in a situation. People who need help alongside the road, and honestly, sometimes you just drive by, and then sometimes you do something, right? You just kind of rely on some wisdom and discernment there. But Faith, she was going by a person, and they had to hold them with signs that they were hungry, and she went out of her way, drove through some place, got food, took it to them, said, "You're hungry. I can't do a lot for you, but have this. If you're hungry, at least you're going to have some food." They threw it back at her, cussed her out, and walked away.
wow.
Okay, then. You hold a sign, we'll work for food. Okay. Someone offers you the job. Are you going to take it? He's like, "No, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that." It seems that when we put ourselves in a situation where we want help but want it on our terms, are we really seeking help? And I guess that relates scripturally as well. When we surrender to Yahweh, are we really surrendering everything to Him? Are we really surrendering all that we are to Him? Or are we surrendering with terms and conditions? Are we trying to negotiate our surrender to Yahweh? Or are we just surrendering to Him?
Well, David, in a recent Torah portion, I think it was last week's, it talks about when there are poor among you. It said that there should not be any. It's Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 4 says, "Only there should be." It said that it doesn't say there won't be. It said there should be no poor among you. For Yah does bless you greatly in the land which He has given you to possess as an inheritance. All of the parameters, provisions, stipulations, opportunities for blessing, prosperity, having your needs met were already set in place. Why is it then that he says in verse 7, when there is a poor man among you, one of your brothers, how did they get in here? There are those that will mismanage what Yah has entrusted to them and then cry out, I'm poor, somebody help me. Paying someone's bills when they refuse to do so for themselves is not helping them. Giving them a job to do so that they can earn the money to pay their bills is a better way. So, you can be accused of, in our day and time especially, of being cruel, of being judgmental, of being bigoted. The list, it's automatically, if you don't suit the major trends of our society now, everything is racist. No matter what the issue is, you're automatically racist. And nobody wants to be called ugly names. And so we yield and we play along with societal trends. That's not who we are. We're Torah people. We are covenant people. And Yah is enabling us to operate in his Torah. I was listening recently, I think this morning, to a rabbi who was saying, in the face of high interest rates and inflation and downturns in the economy and so forth, that what he is seeing is the coming year is that of incredible wealth and prosperity. Now, I didn't get to listen to all of it, but immediately I thought of Yitzhak, that in a time of famine sowed into the ground and reaped an amazing harvest. Where there is no water, he's digging wells and finding water. So in a time of hurt and lack and need, he still puts seed in the ground. Most of us would say, why bother? It's a waste of seed. It's not going to come up anyway. No, he did the work, and Yah honored the work and brought him a blessing. So we have to encourage people who say, I just give up. I quit. Somebody do it for me. No, if you're not willing to put the seed in the ground, I won't help you harvest it.
And relating this over into the spiritual side, it works the same way.
Yep.
Yahweh has equipped us for what we need to live this life. Spiritually, he's redeemed you. He's called you to himself. He's equipped you and given you his word. If we're not willing to read the scripture and try to learn and apply it and seek out wisdom from those around who have been studying and doing these things, if we're not willing to do this for ourselves, no matter what anybody else tells us, we're never going to get it. We're never going to truly have it written on our hearts unless we put the effort in to put it there. And it's that learning of him and that we need to write over. We need to pray. We need to do all these things. I remember story. I knew a guy. It was growing up. It was in my mom. Make a long story very short because we're running out of time. He always said he just wish he had more time to read his Bible. Just wish he had more time to read his Bible. Just wish he had more time to read his Bible. Guess what? He got in an accident, broke both his legs, was laid up for weeks on end while he had to heal and all this. And guess what? He had plenty of time to do now.
Read his Bible.
Read his Bible. So it's one of those things where, do we really seek him, or are we just trying to make it convenient? And Yahweh isn't in the convenience. He's in the purposeful intent of pursuit.
Can't say any better than that. Purposeful intent of pursuit.
That's he says, if you search for me wholeheartedly, you'll find me. He didn't say if you search for me casually. You may stumble upon me. So let us search for him. Let us pursue him. Let us put the effort in to live as he has called us to live. And in the areas where we fall short, he meets us and makes up the difference. In areas where we lack, he equips us. But in all of it, may his name be glorified. Right?
Amen.
All right.
And may he be glorified in the last seconds of our time here. If you would like to reach us, you can do so by going to Reunion Roadmap at B'naiYosefNA.com. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. David, until next week. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, brother.
And now, Prodigal by Teshuvah, from their album Prodigal, available at teshuvahmusic.com.
When I formed you in the garden, we were walking side by side. I was yours and you were mine. I gave you every sort of pleasure except the fruit upon a tree. Then you chose it instead of me. I said, son, just how long can you stay away from your father's home? I said, son, just how long can you stay away from your father's home? You are the crown of our creation. Now you're living in the mud. Don't let this place of shame keep you from my love. 'Cause there is something that I've wanted to tell you for a while. There's still a place for you at home, my child. I said, son, just how long can you stay away from your father's home? You are the one my soul loves. I'd do anything to see you coming up the road, coming home. Come home. I said, come home.
That was Teshuvah singing Prodigal. And before that, Barry Phillips and the Aleph Tav Band with We Need Your Healing. Both of those songs relate to what we heard from Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz talking about his books, The Hope Merchant, his first novel, and The Master of Return and the 11th Light, his second novel. We ended on a cliffhanger there, just as he asked me that question about the world going crazy and where we are now. Is it a product of history? Well, absolutely. And we'll continue that in our next show. This will be a 4-part interview, so we got a lot of time with Eliyahu yet to go. Well, Safania, we had a very good midrash, Restoring the Sheep, from Barry and David.
Mm-hmm.
What stood out to you in the message that they brought to us?
Well,
I think that was very appropriate where they said that we are all sheep, and that we shouldn't forget that we are.
Mm.
And how they were pointing out that when it says that we are the lost sheep of the house of Israel, that is us. That's who we are. And when you look at the aspect of Yeshua saying that my sheep know me and follow me, when they hear my voice. And so, yeah, we are his sheep and the sheep of his pasture.
One thing that I appreciated that they said regarding bearing our brother's burden,
Yes.
bearing that burden with him or with her, not for him.
Yes, I think that's a very, very appropriate message, actually, with what we see today, where there is a lot of this false burden bearing. We see it in many different aspects of life.
We could just point at home life and families. If parents do everything for the children, how do they learn?
Exactly.
How do they grow? Right. I am thinking of this point regarding what Eliyahu has shared and what he has shared in his books. It seems to me that our Jewish brothers and sisters are looking for help bearing the burden, not taking it up for them, but joining with them in reclaiming the promised land, in walking out those promises that say there will be vineyards, there'll be fields, there will be Jerusalem filled with the old and with the young. These promises are already being fulfilled.
Yes.
And what is so compelling to me about people like Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz and his wife and those he's associated with is that they are stepping out in faith, and they would really appreciate help from Christians who believe the same thing about the promises. And, they're going to continue to do this. They will walk it out, and they will be successful because God is with them, regardless whether we help or not. I believe, knowing Eliyahu as we know him, that he'd agree with this statement. He would like us to come alongside and help so that we can also share the blessing as well as the burden. You think that's an accurate statement?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah. The more I get to know our Israeli friends, the more impressed I am with their faith and how they we say, put your money where your mouth is. They are putting their lives on the line. It's something that we outside of Israel don't understand. And this is why I continue to say, go get his book, The Master of Return and the 11th Light, because that is a window into this world of these intrepid Jewish pioneers who understand who they are and whose they are, and whose work in bringing about the fulfillment of the promises is actually benefiting the whole world.
Man.
We have just about come to the end of our time here for this edition of Reunion Roadmap. Stefania, any last word?
No, I would just encourage, this is the first part, encourage to stick around for the 4 parts. And if you are blessed by what we are doing here at B'nai Yosef North America, there is a donate button on the page there. And so consider being a part of our work and joining us in that effort.
Amen. Thank you. Yes. Go visit our website if you haven't already, bneyosefna.com, BNEYYOSEFNA.com. And do check out the resources that we offer there, Reunion Roadmap being just one of them. So that will do it for this edition. Thank you so very much for joining us. This is Al McCarn on behalf of Barry Phillips, David Jones, and Stefania Pappas. Shavua Tov.
Thank you for joining us on Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America.